My name is Robert Patrici. I'm the president of the Punapono Alliance. And so I want to talk about a lot of different things, but economics would be one to start with because we've heard a lot about health impacts and all that. But geothermal is very expensive. We pay the highest rates in the United States. We got 20% from geothermal power right now. And at the same time, the newer technologies are coming way down in price, and we heard Jay speak about all the infrastructure improvements, et cetera. People are leaving the grid. My whole community actually lives off grid. I haven't been on the grid for quite a while, and I can tell you it's quite a bit cheaper than HELCO. But there's a lot of things that we can do. A lot of people say that solar's not ready because it can't do base load power. Well, the technology is changing so fast that before they can possibly build these geothermal power plants or most other centralized power plants, they're not going to be economically competitive 5 years from now. Just as an example, a little over a year ago, I bought solar panels for another system for my business, and I paid $1.50 a watt for panels. Right now, those same panels are 75 cents a watt, and they're projected by Steve Holmes in Kona, who has a solar business, to be 50 cents a watt by the end of this year. I mean, can you imagine? In 1999, I paid $10 a watt. They're going to be 50 cents a watt at the end of this year. That's a 95% drop in price in about 12 or 13 years. And the technology is moving so fast, you can't even hardly track it, because I do. I track solar technology online. I have a website where I look up all these articles and I put them on, and I just try to keep up with it. And it's amazing that you can't even keep up. There's 20 or 30 different designs, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Berkeley Livermore, Sandinista Laboratories, all the major universities all around the world, they're bringing on these new technologies and new battery technologies, liquid flow batteries. I was really happy to hear about your 1 megawatt battery. I was interested to find out what kind of battery that is. I know the West Hawaii Community Center, Civic Center, has a lithium battery that powers there, so they're totally solar powered. We have communities right now in Hawaii, thousands of people that are off grid. The state, HELCO, nobody's come to us and said, how do you guys do that? You know, and how much does it cost you? And they haven't helped us at all. Geothermal, all these other centralized power, they have subsidies and all this money that they're giving. Nobody came out and helped me with anything. I did my whole solar system, and all my neighbors, we all did it ourselves, and we're still cheaper. Imagine if the government got together.
You have 20 seconds.
I have 20 seconds. This is the 21st century. Energy policy in Hawaii is dictated by special interests, and that's why we pay the highest rates in the United States. It's poor leadership at the legislature. It's money in politics. If we want better energy policy, we got to elect more people like Russell Ruderman. We got to do our part. Support Punapono Alliance. Thank you.
There you go. It can be done. Number 6. You can identify yourself, and if you represent a group, the group.
I'm Tom Travis. I'm representing myself. My first part of my comments is going to be to read from an article by Edison Electric Institute called Disruptive Challenges, Financial Implications and Strategic Responses to a Changing Retail Electric Business. In the late 1970s, this is quote, in the late 1970s, deregulation started to take hold in 2 industries that share similar characteristics with the electronic utility industry, the airline industry and the telecommunications industry, or the telephone utility business. Both industries were price and finance regulated with large barriers to entry due to regulation and capital-intensive nature of those businesses. Airline industry challenges were driven by regulatory actions, and telecommunications industry experienced technology changes that encouraged regulators to allow competition, cell phones. But industries have experienced significant shifts in the landscape of industry players as a result. As far as the challenges meeting the electric industry, The financial risks created by disruptive challenges include declining utility revenues, increasing costs, and lower profitability potential, particularly over the long term. And I'm going to put in, there's a bunch of abbreviations here, but they're talking about solar. Programs continue to capture market share. For example, utility revenues will be reduced. Adding the higher cost to integrate solar, increasing subsidies for solar, and direct metering will result in potential for a squeeze on profitability and thus credit matrices. Essentially what's happening is the utility is in the same position where to maintain the wires and the grid, they're going to become more expensive than the solar with the batteries. As a consequently, people are going to leave the grid and the cost will go up with the remaining customers. You can call it fairness to try to tax those that go on solar so that they have to pay the utility to subsidize rates to those who happen to maintain it, the utility. But in fact, that makes no sense at all, and nothing. The comment is, there is no sign in the action plan that the utility addressed this problem at all. My last point is that roughly geothermal costs 12 cents, roughly to generate electricity. The petroleum costs about 20 cents, so roughly there's an 8-cent difference. So if we did 100% geothermal, by my calculations, we would save 8 cents. That's assuming that we wouldn't have to build any inter-island cables, make any new transmission lines over the line, or restore anything to make it work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right on time. Okay. Number 7. Do I have a number 7? There.
Memory
There
problem
you
here.
are. You could identify yourself, and if you represent a group, could you name it?
Okay, my name's Avery Freed, and I'm representing myself. I live in Lower Puna, where I lived there about 12 years, and I'm about 3 miles, as the crow flies, from the single operating, at times, geothermal well. And it was interesting because before coming down here, I experienced the earthquake and wondering what was going to happen, but fortunately nothing happened. But I wanted to say that I was trained as a diagnostic radiologist physician. I'm retired, and I love living on this island. I was in the field about 20 years, 17 years working at Stroud. And as being a radiologist, I remember in the earlier years, no one really thought there was a danger to chronic low-level radiation. They just didn't think it was. And as I got further along in the profession and more experiments were done, it became obvious that people subject to chronic low-level radiation are in danger of hurting themselves, actually getting cancer. People might remember a few years ago about the horrible or difficult controversy to get a mammogram or not. Because some people getting mammograms, they were using such high dose that they were actually producing more cancers than they would find. And so by the time I left the profession, the standards were so much more strict as far as what is considered safe radiation than when I started. And this reminds me a lot of what's happening about similar to secondary smoke. Remember the cigarette companies saying, you're making a big deal out of all this. There's nothing wrong with secondhand smoke. Don't be so, absurd. And, the cigarette companies had tried to do anything to keep this from being controlled. And fortunately now, secondhand smoke is considered dangerous as it is. Now, I think what I'm concerned, of course, is about the health risks, many concerns, but the health risks to people in the community where I live, which is not terribly respected by those who don't live there. But I think the just like secondary smoke was found later to be harmful, they're going to find out that, and they already have, that low dosages of hydrogen sulfide is toxic. Hydrogen sulfide is a poison like carbon monoxide, like arsenic. Okay, and I think everything should be stopped until absolute safety has been determined before any plant at all. Don't start it up until it's fixed, otherwise you're killing our population. Thank you.
Number 8.
Hi, my name is Tim Reese, and I'm just a resident here, and I wanted to talk on actually 2 items. Interestingly, our solid waste solution, or whatever we come up with for solid waste processing, certainly now with HELCO investigating evaluating waste to energy quote solutions, I'm begging HELCO's engineers and analysts to be open with whatever current information you have. I'm talking generic stuff, not in any way tied to any proposals or anything, but our county council and even our administration is floundering. I personally do not like waste to energy. Everything I've been reading about it, unfortunately my sources are old, and every time they tried to predict what would be coming out of the smokestack, they were dead wrong. It was the best scientists and engineers in the world working on that field, and they were wrong. So I could possibly support waste to energy, whether it matters or not, if there's guarantee that it can be done properly. And I want to just talk quickly to you folks that there's a lot of parameters to our solid waste treatment and what we do with it that isn't really well understood in the community. County council is floundering and doesn't know much about the current, what would I say, not biothermics, what do you call it? The current thermal efficiencies in that can be gained, and what kind of BTU generating material, raw material, you must put through, and efficient throughput. There's a huge question. We keep going back to 500 tons. I understand that's outdated. People are saying that, but there is nothing concrete that I've seen that is showing new technology that actually beats those old efficiencies. Now, back to this, we're locked into a contract at Hulu. It's a perpetual contract where they deal with the making the cells for the solid waste, right? For all the stuff from Kona currently that goes there. That is covered with soil, and waste management is handling that for the county. Perpetual contract costs us a lot of money. It's really hard to determine whether it was ever a good contract to begin with, or currently, or will it still be into the future. But what I do say, if waste to energy has evolved where it is more safe and can actually efficiently produce energy and be safe, in the balance of recycling, mulching and composting, and possibly waste to energy, it could be very effective at Pu'u'anohulu. We could literally dig our way, recycling the material that is already buried at Pu'u'anohulu that has high BTUs, large amount of construction debris, which was a lot of wood, not just drywall and non-high BTU non-combustibles. There's a great resource there, including all the waste that we generate currently. If we could eventually look into the possibility of digging our way out of the Pu'u'anohulu contract and not landfilling into the earth all the time, it would be fantastic. Much harder to do in Hilo, probably will never happen because it was not lined and it was covered with rocky material. They can't come anywhere close to even guaranteeing safety for the employees of actually excavating. Pu'u'anohulu, a whole different story. I understand a lot of those concerns are more county policy decisions, but HELCO, if they are open to this and would help us out, I'm begging you, I'm saying, please get some real strong facts out there about just the basics of the current state-of-the-art of waste to energy. It might be helpful to our county, and it definitely would help out our political decision makers right now. So I beg you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Number 9.
Hello. I am Carrie Marks, and I'm not a paid lobbyist.
You represent a group.
Occupy Hilo, Occupy Hawaii, GMO-free Hawaii Islands, and a half a dozen others I can't think of right
Okay,
now.
thank you.
I agree with most of what most of folks have said so far, and I want to add that I really, 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 really hate LNG, and that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. I also want to know if anybody ran through those slides from beginning to end and compared one to the next, because they all contradict themselves. On one hand, you say you want to lower our costs and get us off of fossil fuels. On the other hand, LNG is the answer for that? That's ludicrous. It's a fossil fuel, and it's cheaper right now, but it might not be next year, and it certainly won't be in 5 or 10 years when we start running out of it. So no LNG. I agree with what everybody said about Pono. I thought HELCO was over that. I was misinformed. I thought that the PUC denied their rate contract, but AKP was going to just try and go ahead anyway because they don't really need HELCO. They can sell their biofuel to the Navy or to the mainland, and it doesn't really matter. They're going to build their giant generator or microwaves and try and produce biofuel in a desert. In a desert. Okay? Waste to energy is a stupid idea, especially if you want to build it on the east side. They use more energy on the west side, they generate more waste on the west side, and that's where it should go. I definitely don't want to build new transmission lines for your brand new grid that's going to pump power all over the island again. It is time to break down the grid and rethink it. Distributed power is the wave of the future. And if you don't do that and put some serious energy into that, we're going to take the grid from you. The people are mad, the ratepayers are angry, and it's about time to start revoking easements. So I challenge you all to hold on to that thought and think about it for a little while, but that's the next phase. Okay? If we have to build a new grid, we get to pick the power, period. No geothermal, no Pono, no none of that. It's our grid. Now, if you actually thought about it, HELCO, you would see that you have a chance to be the world leader in distributed power. Instead of saying, oh, it's so hard and you guys are really pushing us with all your PV panels, you could go about it with an attitude like, we're going to be a model for the world. This is how everybody in the sunny state is going to do things from here on out. So, I encourage an attitude change. We want democratic control of the grid. We want to decide. We want to say, and there's no cable happening, I forgot to mention that at all. Zero inter-island cable is happening. You will not be able to hook that up to this island. People will throw themselves into the bay and stop it from happening, so think of something else. Each island needs to take care of their own needs. Okay? It's not like Maui needs our power. Who needs our power? Oahu, every single time. It's not like Molokai's running short and we gotta help out our little buddy. It's Oahu, every single time.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Okay, be a model for the world, distributed generation, have a better attitude, take us seriously or your time is up.
Number 10. You're going to be number 11? Okay.
My name is Harry Kim and representing myself here. Everything I'm saying now, in short, is in writing that I put in writing since the 80s and the 90s. My concern of what's going on. I truly wish there was a better relationship between government, business, HELCO, and the community. During this last session, I was interviewed by a reporter in regard to what was going on with Act 55, which is PLDC, and Act 97, which rules established on the geothermal. Went to repeal, we went to reinstate the rules established in 83, which is good. I think for HELCO and those on your action committee, please take a look at your words in regards to how to develop your energy plans and working with the culture, the community conscientiousness. I really feel that this past session, the relationship between government and its people that they represent, and I've stated that government should be an arm of the community. But the most disappointing time of my life in regards to working with government. I've said it to many people, I do not understand. I truly do not understand why people should be on this side with their concerns and government business should be on that side. And it was that way throughout the whole thing in regards to testifying on Act 97, to repeal Act 97. Jay and I are friends from way back. He knows that. This is not about him. I was his football coach. Not a good one, but he was a damn good player. And he knows we're friends. I coach his two younger brothers. And we're very good friends with the family. But I'm talking about how we relate to each other. All the concerns here, look at who's here. We're not going to resolve this as long as we keep fighting with PGV, the businesses that support it, and especially the government that represents us. I resent very strongly where we're going and how we're doing it. And I wish for a better relationship so we can address and resolve this problem. Not for HELCO, not for the government powers or business powers, but for the people and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You could identify yourself.
I'm Jim Albertini. I'm with Maulawina Center for Nonviolent Education and Action. And our organization was the hub for the Big Island Rainforest Action Group that 25 years ago joined with the Pele Defense Fund to stop the 500 megawatt export of geothermal from the wild Kaliopuna rainforest to Oahu. That project was going to destroy the last lowland rainforest in Hawaii, a seedbed for all the new lava flows, so Waikiki could look a little more like Las Vegas. It was nuts. It took nearly 1,000 people being arrested over the course of several years because, as Harry Kim was saying, the people were cut out of the decision-making process. And the people were left with no recourse but nonviolent direct action. And all the signs indicate that we're heading in the same direction again by the actions of government cutting the people out of the process. I hope that's not the case. I want to make just a few points. I hope that this meeting, all the recordation of the minutes, will be posted on this website for all the state of Hawaii and everybody else to see who were not able to come tonight. That's number one. Number two, no more geothermal. If the talk about respecting the culture is true, then we'd be not drilling into Pele for any more energy. Respect Pele. That should be fundamental. There's lots of other alternatives. Number three, one example of the absurdity of this. Transporting biomass from Ka'u to burn in the Keoholi site, one of the sunniest places on the face of this earth, is absolute nuts. If Keoholi can't do solar power, where can solar power be done? Number four, HELCO's parent company, HEI, is headed, as far as I know, by Constance Lau. She has a multi-million-dollar compensation package. In my judgment, that's obscene when the ratepayers are having to pay so much to subsidize Constance Lau. And finally, number five, I've been living off the grid for over 30 years on small-scale solar in the Puna rainforest. If I can do it, everyone can do it. Flee the grid. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for your comments. Let me ask if anyone else wishes to speak. If not, then I want to find out as, hello, how are you? Come, sir, please. You have 3 minutes. Can you introduce yourself and if you represent a group, the name of the group?
Hi, my name is Yan Chen. I represent myself. I worked for more than 2 decades for a publicly owned utility. And despite that, I still favor going onshore. I think that one thing that has been neglected in the scenarios is what you might call the catastrophes scenario. The loss of a plant, the inability to get a reliable supply of petroleum.
Jens, can you speak a little louder?
Maybe.
Okay.
So I would like to see that scenario because, ironically, the relationship that we have, most of us have, with HELCO is one that vividly illustrates that we're all interconnected. HELCO has the obligation to supply every berg of energy that we demand when we demand it. And of course we pay for it. What's being neglected here is a responsible situation with both the utilities and the users. If you want a lower HELCO bill, use less electricity. It's that simple. Some people have done a lot that way. My wife and I, we live in a household that lacks nothing. We're connected to the grid. We use 6 to 7 kilowatt hours a day. Okay, you know the average is about 22, 24. There's people wasting a hell of a lot of electricity. And almost nobody's doing anything about it. That includes people who are paying very high HELCO bills. I worked for HELCO for 3 months. It was fun. In the end, I figured I had better things to do with my time. Sorry, fellas. But I know that there are people out there who are paying bills in excess of $500 a month. Way in excess of $500 a month. And that is flat out not good. It is flat out not necessary. That's something we all have to deal with. That's all.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir, please. I'm sorry.
Number 14.
You're number 12. You could identify yourself, please?
Thank you, Larry Herring. I live in Hilo. Tim, if you want to waste energy, talk to Harry Kim. You know, he had a great proposal back in 2008, that Lane Council shut it down. Hasn't got any better. The Lane Council. Anyhow, with all due respect, Mr. Albertini, nobody's ever proven that Madame Pele objects to tapping into geothermal. Period. And Kerry, I politely disrespect, or not politely disrespect, politely disagree with you also. We need a mix of options to provide energy. I have a problem with HELCO, a real problem with HELCO, and I have a problem with the PUC, and what I consider their incestuous relationship. There's I don't know, I guess a new PVG plant in the mix. I apologize, I came in late, I was at a CDP meeting. But there's a new geothermal plant proposed someplace down in Puna, and Puna, I'm sure you all read the same information that I did, that the PUC has already signed off on allowing them to charge or sell their rates to their energy to HELCO for 26.3 cents a kilowatt hour or something like that. And according to Mr. Trask, it costs anywhere from 10 to 14 cents an hour to produce this. It's a scam, people. And it's ridiculous. It's beyond disgraceful, this relationship that HELCO has with the PUC. And there again, nobody's proven that Madame Pele is mad that we're tapping into the geothermal, but I think you need a broad base of energy proposals to make it go around. Just back in my day, the thing was multiple streams of income. We could say multiple streams of energy also. Solar's good, but it's not reliable all the time. PVG has its problems. They all have problems, so we need a big mix. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have you're pointing.
Corey is.
Oh, Corey. Yes. I didn't see her hand. Thank you.
Corey
Lori Harden, just speaking for myself, for comments. I want to thank HELCO for having the meeting. I guess they are not required to, but I think they should be required to, because I think they're getting away different comments than they would from the IRP group that's described. Let's see, liquefied natural gas, I've heard a lot of concerns about it, that you have to keep it cold all the time, which must consume a great deal of energy. And I think it's obtained from fracking, and I can't see trashing the environment someplace else to have energy here. On biofuels, I think we need to be real careful. Some are environmentally friendly, some are not. You really need to evaluate every proposal. Geothermal, I have many concerns. One is, after 30 years, there was an incident a couple days ago, and it seems like it's hard to detect hydrogen sulfide levels where it's most important in the neighborhood where people are being affected. On exporting and having the cable from between islands, I support having each island do its own energy. If you've got a cable undersea, it's too vulnerable, and you have impacts of energy generation in one place, so another place can benefit, and that's going to lead to problems. And I do want to commend HELCO for what they said about renewable energy, about looking into more of the distributed energy. I think we need to look at what's the best way, how much central, how much distributed. I'm glad they made some comments about distributed energy.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Can I make one last comment on a different subject?
No.
Oh, the geothermal instability of the geology.
Let me hold. No. Is there anyone who has not spoken who wishes to speak? Okay. Let me say this to you. As a facilitator, I hold myself to a certain standard, and that is that I move a meeting along, that I make sure all voices are heard, that I make sure no one voice dominates, and that I make sure everyone treats one another kindly. You have been a wonderful audience. I have been remiss in that I have taken you over time. I intended to finish at 8. Somehow it didn't seem that important to me because there's a flow to this, and we needed to hear your voices. I know this man wants to speak again. I think it's time for us to bring this to a close instead, and I'd like to give the opportunity now to Jay Ignacio to do that, because this is his meeting. Thank you for allowing me to facilitate.
I just want to thank all of you for coming tonight, giving your honest and straightforward feedback. We haven't agreed on all of the actions that we're taking, but I certainly appreciate you coming tonight and expressing what you feel and what you believe and giving us information. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. So my understanding is that they will post these on the website along with the notes, the minutes that have been taken by, on the computer.